Have you ever felt like your life is just a series of intense opposites? One minute you're celebrating, and the next you're grieving. Or you're building something amazing, and then suddenly it feels like it's all being torn down? Well, it turns out this isn't just random chaos. There's this ancient wisdom that says life is actually made up of distinct seasons, and every single one has its own purpose. And just look at this rhythm laid out so clearly. Life isn't supposed to be one single note. It's this incredible mix of joy and sorrow, of harmony and, well, discord. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to mourn and a time to dance. The point isn't to avoid the hard stuff. These opposites are actually the very fabric of what it means to be human.
So, where does this idea come from? It goes way back to the book of Ecclesiastes, and it's attributed to King Solomon. He had this profound observation that every moment, every activity has its proper place appointed by God. The real insight here is that there's a purpose in every season, even the ones that are confusing or painful. From the beginning to the end, there's a kind of hidden order to it all.
Now, out of all those pairs, let's zoom in on just one, because it holds a fascinating secret about how we grow. We're going to talk about a time to plant and a time to uproot, this incredible cycle of beginnings and endings.
I mean, on the surface, it's pretty straightforward, right? Anyone who's ever gardened or farmed knows there's a time to put a seed in the ground and a time to pull the plant up. Planting is all about new life, new potential. Uprooting, that's the end of the line for that plant. It's simple, but trust me, the metaphor goes so much deeper.
That word uproot, it's really powerful. It doesn't just mean a gentle harvest. It means to pull up, to tear out completely right from the roots. And that's exactly why it was used figuratively in other texts to describe the total destruction of entire cities and nations. It's an act of absolute finality, a total upheaval.
And this isn't a one-off idea. We see this exact theme echoed by the prophet Jeremiah. This pattern, uprooting and tearing down, which is then followed by building and planting, it's this recurring cycle. It strongly suggests that sometimes destruction has to happen before any new creation can begin. Which brings us to a really important question. Is that the whole story? Is that season of uprooting really just about loss and things being over? Or is there something else going on just beneath the surface?
So this is where it gets really interesting. Centuries later, a new perspective comes along that completely transforms this ancient metaphor. We find it in the teachings of Jesus, and it all comes down to the simple image of a kernel of wheat. And this is the absolute game changer. Jesus says that for a seed to actually fulfill its purpose, it's not enough for it to just be planted. It has to fall into the soil and die. Think about that. If it just stays a seed, it stays alone. But if it dies, if it gives up its current form, it produces this incredible, plentiful harvest. All of a sudden, uprooting or death isn't the end. It's the very thing that makes new life possible.
Let's just break that down really quick. The journey has 3 parts. First, the seed is planted, simple enough. Second, and this is the wild part, it dies. It has to surrender itself. And third, from that death comes new life, a huge harvest. The sources explain that Jesus was actually talking about his own death here, framing it not as a defeat, but as the one sacrifice needed to bring about a plentiful harvest of new lives.
So in Christian theology, the ultimate fulfillment of this whole metaphor is Jesus himself. He's presented as that one single grain of wheat that had to fall into the ground and die, so that eternal life could become possible for everyone who believes in him. The death of the one brings life to the many. Okay, that's a huge idea. But what does it mean for us in our day-to-day lives? Well, this paradoxical principle isn't just about a historical event. It's presented as a core truth for anyone on a spiritual journey.
And this gets right to the heart of it. To truly save your life, you must lose it. I mean, at first, that sounds like a complete contradiction, right? A riddle that doesn't make any sense. But this idea is central to that new perspective we just saw. To find a true, meaningful existence, you have to let go of the life you're trying so hard to control on your own terms.
And here's the full context from the Gospel of Matthew. The concept is often called dying to self. It's about surrendering your own will, your ambitions, your need for control, so you can find a deeper, more profound life that's aligned with God's purpose. It's the personal application of that whole kernel of wheat principle. And this is not an isolated idea, not by a long shot. This powerful theme of dying to live is woven all throughout the New Testament. It connects to huge concepts like being born again, the call to take up your cross, and this idea of being crucified with Christ so that he can live through you. It is absolutely foundational.
Okay, so let's bring this all back together. How does this new understanding of dying to live help us find purpose when we're stuck in one of those really difficult seasons of uprooting?
And here's the really comforting takeaway. Those seasons of loss, of mourning, of feeling like everything is being torn up by the roots, they aren't pointless tragedies. According to this worldview, they have a divine purpose. They are the soil being prepared for new growth, for a spiritual harvest you could never get to otherwise.
So the crucial point is this: the difficult seasons and the joyful seasons are completely linked. You cannot have the abundant new life, the joy of a new harvest, without first going through that painful but necessary season of uprooting and surrendering the old way. One makes the other possible. And that really leaves us with one last thought. If you look at your own life right now, what season would you say you're in? Whether it feels like a time of planting or a time of uprooting, the question this whole idea asks is, what new life, what future harvest might God be planting through it all?